even if it kills me, even if it kills me, even if it kills me. This is my commitment to my own personal growth and your personal growth. And this is the level of commitment that I expect of you. Welcome. This is He is Hero podcast, episode 47. I'm your friendly neighborhood porn detox coach, Roman Mironov. This podcast is for you if you've been struggling with porn addiction. You know that you are addicted and you have tried a lot of things and nothing seems to work. So you're wondering, how do I control my urges? How long will it actually take me to heal my brain from watching porn, from all those years of being addicted? And I am really honored to be helping you on this journey with this podcast, because you need to keep going. Otherwise, your life will get worse. You won't have money to pay your bills, to get groceries. That's why you need that commitment. But with that commitment, you will be able to break free. Just keep chiseling and chiseling until you find the right approach. And there is one. And we're going to look at some things that will help you to get to that life that you want, to get to your dreams, to realize your full potential that PMO is holding you back from realizing. You're going to get all of this from this podcast. In this episode, I have a very special guest for you, Damian Andrews. He is an amazing motivational speaker, guru, professional growth expert, and he will talk a lot about porn, about doing Nofap, about various tips and tricks that will help you to motivate yourself and to really push you out of a difficult situation. So, if you want to break free from PMO, if you want that success, if you want to have real sex, listen and listen closely. You're gonna love this podcast. All right, I'm sitting down with Damian Andrews of eShare podcast, a guru, an expert, a teacher in all those kind of self-development, personal growth, personal development tools that help us on this journey from going to level 1 to level 30. So, Damian, welcome to the podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for those. I'm honored by your comments. Thank you very much. It's very...
My pleasure. All right, so without further ado, let's dive into what our listeners are mostly interested in. The first thing is porn addiction, all kinds of bad habits, and the second thing is personal development. So basically right now we are helping people to go from level 1, which is someone very addicted, very miserable, very depressed, not actualizing their full potential, to level 5, which is Nofap and porn free. So what's your opinion on the porn industry?
I missed a little bit of the start of that, but I think because the internet froze. But I think from what I heard that you're talking about, the difference between someone who's one was not interested in porn, doesn't watch porn, and 5 is all over porn, and it's their main hobby. Is that where we're at with that?
Are you on a different podcast right now? Because I did not say anything like that. but you can answer that. That's funny.
I completely lost you there for a minute, where it froze. Well, we've got a little bit of an internet problem. I think it's at my end, and I'm just changing to a new service provider because of that. So I completely missed that. So do you want to ask the question again?
No. I actually like what you said. So answer that question, please.
Okay, fair enough. You can be the part that looks pretty, and I'll just make up some questions. How's that?
No, I thought you were pretty, and I was.
Yeah, I think I am. We're both pretty. This is cool. We gotta like it. Yeah, from my perspective, I think I don't know so much. I mean, I've heard people talk about the porn industry. I've never really thought about it from that perspective. I have thought about porn from the perspective of my watching of that. I think from my background, if I look at it, sex was never something that was unusual in my life, like ever.
Hmm.
And actually, can someone please, one of the audience members, please, because personal growth for me, I tend to say like a lot in sentences. It's like a teenager. Like and I'm so if someone can record how many times I do that, because then I'll be even more embarrassed about it because I want to try and fix that as part of my personal growth. You mentioned about personal growth. But from a porn perspective and general sex perspective, uh, my mother was pretty open about that kind of stuff. When I remember when we were young, there was a book called, I think it was called Where Do I Come From? There's a book called Where Do I Come From? There was another one that I remember as well. I can't remember what the title was, but it had, basically two robots on wheels, and one had a vagina, one had a penis, and it's like showing that, and then it's like goes like that, and then drives in, and that was so I knew where everything went, and it wasn't an unusual thing. It wasn't a taboo thing. It wasn't something to be, ooh, what's sex? Because I already knew. I knew what happened. And I mean, when I say I knew, I'm talking from a young age, like 6 or 7 or something like that. Um, I, and so when my friends, as late, I think early teens, were talking about it, and someone had a porn video to watch or something like that, I was like, but it's just sex. What's the big deal? And so I never actually went and watched it. They went off and I went, no, I'm going off and doing something else. And it just didn't, so it wasn't something, from that point of view, watching it wasn't something that I was interested in. I was more interested in doing it. And and from that end, I mean, same token, uh, my first girlfriend was in kindergarten, and I remember her name, Joanne. She was a lovely girl. Not that we ever had sex or tried to have sex or things like that, because as much as I knew what to do, it was like you didn't know how to get to that point. How do you go from running around the playground to having sex? It was like, what is all this? So it wasn't something that knew, but certainly when I was a teenager, you know, so mid to late teens, it was something that I wanted and always fluffed up. It wasn't there was an opportunity to have sex. I just you know, being a teenager and awkward and not probably confident in myself in broaching that question. I remember one time, and I think subconsciously I screwed myself up to not doing it. It was one time we went to a party, and for whatever reason, I remember I did this. I had some condoms and I decided not to take them. I consciously made and said, I'm not going to take those. And then later on that night, I'm with this girl and she's all over me, and everyone had gone and we stayed the night at the house, and she's staying there next to me, and she's getting right into it. And she goes, "Have you got protection?" And I'm going, "No, I left it at home." And I'm like, "What was it? Conscious, I don't know, self-sabotage or whatever." So I guess maybe that's a kind of a different path from some people. I'm not sure, but from my end, it wasn't. I said it wasn't something that I need to do. Does that mean I've never watched porn? Yeah, I have. Later in life, I've watched some porn. I've looked at it, and it's like, it's stimulating for a little bit, but it certainly doesn't compare to the real thing. Masturbating, yeah, it's okay. I wouldn't, write home about it. I wouldn't say it's anything, compare that to, I couldn't even compare it to the interactions, the sexual interactions that I've had with a partner. Doesn't even come close. So I guess, from a porn industry perspective, I don't know. I'm not really greatly supportive of it financially, because I don't really watch it. And I think it's a much better experience to be doing it with someone else than doing it by yourself.
Yes, absolutely. By the way, I think your mother is a very, very smart woman, because already back then she knew that sex robots were coming.
Maybe.
Yeah, but you know what? That was pretty risky what she did, actually, because she could screw you up for life by showing you those robots. And no, I'm kidding. I mean,
well, she could. I mean, yeah. I mean, this is maybe, from that perspective, that's probably why I walked around hard all the time. It's like, that was my. It's like, oh, robot, they're made of metal, they're hard. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, and you would go right now. Oh, now this is why. Yeah, I get a hard on when I go to all those robot expos, right?
well, it's one of those other
Okay.
ones where I got messed up as well because it's told about the story. I don't know if you've heard this story or not, but there was the guy that he couldn't get it up, and he's gone to a couple of doctors, and the doc said, "Well, look, there's nothing we can do. There's can't do anything." And finally goes to this, this ancient, long white beard, guru type doctor, and Doug says, "Well, yeah, there's not, there is one thing I can do, but it's an injection. It's going to go straight in your old fella. It's going to be pretty painful when you get it, but it'll fix your problem." And at that point, the guy's going, "Well, yeah, I haven't had sex for 3 years. It's like, I'll give that a go." Record that like someone who was doing the telling. And so he goes, "All right, I'll do it." So he braces, gets the injection. Boom! He's got this really big boner. He's like, "Oh, cool." So he walks out, he goes. And 2 weeks later, he comes back to the doctor and he says, Doc, can you I need a hand here. I know I appreciate what you've done. You give me this great boner, but the thing is, it hasn't gone down. 2 weeks. It's rock solid. It hasn't. It's kind of getting embarrassing." And the doc says, "Look, there's nothing I can do. There's not a single thing." And he goes, "Come on, you've got to be able to do something. You're a doctor." And he goes, "Sorry, there's nothing going to do." And the guy goes, "Well, what was in it?" He goes, "3 of sand, 1 of cement."
Welcome, concrete.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've got to have a bit of fun in life too, I think. And for those out there wanting your personal development, whenever you're telling a joke, you always kind of try and, as much as possible, make it sound like it's a real story. I was reading the news the other day, and they actually, did you know, they found genetically that diarrhea is hereditary. I was reading it in the news the other day. It runs in your genes.
I wish I had those genes because I think I have the opposite.
Got denim instead.
Look, so speaking of
Sorry.
erectile dysfunction,
Yeah.
it's on a huge rise. I've been I've been talking
that.
to a
Haven't experienced it, but I've heard about it.
yeah, it's good when you hear about it, but don't experience, right? So
Yeah.
I was talking to this sexual health doctor, and she works for the men, and mostly what she works with, what she helps them with, is actual erectile dysfunction. And she told me that she keeps treating these younger guys in their 20s, and already now in their 20s they rely on Viagra, and she begs them to stop using Viagra for erection, and she tells them stop watching porn instead. Do you feel if some kind of a masculinity trend, I mean masculinity decreasing, and as a result, erectile dysfunction is one of the symptoms?
I mean, oh, that's a good question, but I don't know if I'm in a position to say is, erectile dysfunction, is erectile, was it dysfunction?
Dysfunction, yep.
Yeah, is on the rise, because I haven't read enough data on that to know if it's on the rise and to know if it's not. But I probably want to clarify and saying from that perspective as to what is an erectile dysfunction, because there's times from that perspective is in a relationship. I'll take times when I've been in a relationship, and there's been times where excited, start making love, and it goes away. And that's just part, to me, I've always taken that as just part of life. It's like, I'm not, this thing that will stay hard for 24 hours. And I certainly don't have 3 of sand and 1 of cement in there. And so it's one of those, so I'm just wondering from that perspective, what is the dynamic behind that? So from my perspective, there's sometimes where my partner's been interested and I've been tired, or certainly I know from my perspective, if I'm tired, it doesn't function as well as it should. I don't consider that a dysfunction. That's just other factors affecting that ability. Other times it's okay, yep, super hard, go for a long time, and that's a pacing thing too. From my end, I remember reading somewhere in some magazine, I think it was a health magazine, maybe it wasn't, I don't know, but reading, about making yourself last longer, and it was okay when you get to the point of almost of ejaculation, you slow down. And to make sure she gets to where she needs to get to, because women take longer, or stereotypically. And so because on average it takes I think the average I was reading, and that's a guy that does a lot of speaking on relationships, was talking about the average length of, and this is the average, mind you, the average length of a male sexual experience is 2 minutes. So that's the average. So who's on the other end of that, as in the short end? And a woman takes somewhere between 5 to 7 minutes. So when you have, you talk about women not wanting to have sex, well, if she's not climaxing or getting to the end, of course she's not going to want to do it. I put that on the guys. But from a dysfunction perspective, I think we probably need to get, and maybe that's where the whole, you're coming back to the porn industry as well, or what's presented in porn is, this guy that's hard for 10 years, and he's literally has taken 3 of sand, 1 of cement, because from what I understand, in most of those cases they have taken a Viagra or something to stay hard for a long time. That's not normal. So to have a sexual experience where you go, okay, you start and you're a little bit tired, or there's many times where I've had sex and physically get tired, and it's like, to get to the point where I'm going to ejaculate doesn't happen, and it doesn't need to happen, and that's okay. It's the whole point is about the connection with the other person. And other times it's like we get in there and sometimes it'll be like just get it over with, done quickly, and it's like go in there, and I'm on the wrong end of the 2 minutes. It's just like, yep, finished, done, cool, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. And and that's the whole point of intimacy. The whole point of a relationship is it's not this constant, maybe. And I said, I don't know the data on this, but I said maybe it's not a dysfunction at all. You'd probably have to speak to different people, but having different experiences as you go, sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's not, sometimes you just don't do it at all. There's times there when my partner, person I've been with, has been, on me, massage me, playing with my yin yang, and I'm just like, I want to go to sleep. I'm just not, and I don't see that as a dysfunction. So I don't know if that helps. And I wanted to certainly share from my experience that it's not this thing where I'm all the time I'm this raging boner and I'm performing as you would, is depicted in porn. That's not real life. And maybe that's what you're getting to with what's in porn, because it's not real life. It's a snapshot. Yeah, sometimes I have been like that, where she's when she said, she goes, "Can you finish? I'm enjoying this, but I'm getting a bit tired now." And it's like, okay. And sometimes that happens, but that's not the normal situation. The normal situation is very different, where there's a lot of variety in what happens. So maybe I know I'm not answering your question because I don't have the data, but I just wanted to share my experience that hopefully helps listeners going, hey, there's a lot of flexibility, there's a lot of diversity in this, and the whole point is that it's more about the emotional connection. As they say, that the man needs the man needs sex to have love, and the woman needs love to have sex. So if you find that balance, it works really well. And sometimes that balance is it's you're tired and you just don't perform because you're tired. I don't see that as a negative. It's like, okay, give me 4 hours sleep and I'll be there.
Okay.
I know that was a lot. I don't know if that's what you were looking for.
The funniest thing is that this you did. This is not what I asked you.
Yeah.
I asked you a completely different thing, and so it's the second time. Time in this podcast. So if by the end of the podcast I tell you, can you finish?
I will answer one question.
Yeah. Can you finish? I'm getting kind of tired. Don't be surprised. Okay.
But yeah, I can't really speak on the on that side of things.
I did not ask you to speak about that. I asked you about masculinity.
About masculinity.
Yes.
Okay, masculinity.
And the question is this. Okay, another example.
Okay.
Forget about erectile dysfunction. You don't have it. I don't have it. Most of the time, at least. So we're good about this. Now,
I would say most people probably don't have it. They just got some.
how do you know? You
Well,
just
I
said you don't know.
I don't know. Well, from that perspective, I don't. But I just think sometimes we compare ourselves to the wrong things and then think there's something wrong with us. Individuals are individuals, and you need to find what's right for you. And maybe that's coming to that question about masculinity. What is masculinity?
Wait. Let me answer ask the question, please.
I'm going to
So the question is this: erectile dysfunction is on the rise. Lower testosterone is on the rise. So 50 years ago, according to a lot of studies, the levels of testosterone were like twice as high as they are today. So masculinity is dropping. Have you noticed this?
I've heard people talk about it. Testosterone, from what I understand, has a lot to do with diet. So if that's dropping, change your diet. It's life. I believe, and I preach this a lot, that life's pretty simple. There's simple rules to follow, and if you follow those rules, you stay out of trouble.
So your advice to be masculine, you need to eat?
Well, from what I've seen and read on that topic, that there's a lot to do with it. Is testosterone has to do with the diet that you have. And I don't know the exact diet that it is that produces testosterone. I can't. I've read about it. I can't remember it off the top of my head because I kind of find out. That's roughly what I eat. So it wasn't from my perspective. It wasn't a big alarm bell from my perspective. So I think there's pretty simple fixes with that. I think people going and running around, chicken littles, sky's falling. It's, maybe just focus on what's the thing that needs to be fixed and do that. It's another story that I tell from time to time. A guy goes to the doctor and says, "Doc, I'm getting," or could be a girl, person goes to the doctor and says, "I'm getting this terrible pain in my hand every now and then." And the doctor, well, let's have a look. What doesn't have anything wrong now? What happens when you get that? And the doctor and the guy says to the doctor, says, "Well, when I get in the car, I leave my hand in the door jamb and shut the door." And the doctor says, "Well, maybe don't do that." And and this is where I find we have a lot of people. What I do notice is people complaining about things and going, "Well, don't do that." It's if you want to if your diet is causing you to have a low testosterone level, and I'm sure there's other factors as well, but if that's a factor, fix your diet. Maybe don't go to McDonald's all the time. It's not hard to eat well. It's not a difficult thing to do. No one's there forcing this stuff down your throat, and you go, "Oh, it's all the ads." Well, watch something different. It's like, or grow, just grow a bit of, belief in yourself, which is a belief. We've talked about this before, I think, where a belief is just a thought that you've processed over and over again. Maybe start listening. I know you can listen to shows that have lots of ads in them. Well, maybe switch to a different show. Maybe don't do that. I know from my perspective, generally, if I'm listening to music, I listen to music actually that doesn't. It's upbeat. It's called epic. The style is epic music, and there's one of the groups it's a company called Two Steps from Hell. And they originally started producing soundtracks for ads, ironically, but now they produce a lot of the music for your Marvel type movies, and it's really uplifting music to listen to. Some of it's really your high beat, some of it's not, but that's your choice as to what you do with your life. And that's the part I get, I wouldn't say annoyed with, but it's like, well, if you're doing something if you're slamming your fingers in car doors and complaining about the pain, maybe just stop slamming your fingers in car doors. That would be a quick fix.
Okay.
A simple fix, an easy fix. Just don't. And if your testosterone level, if you've identified that your testosterone level is low and you don't want to have a low testosterone level, then do what you need to do about it. And there's all sorts of things that can be done. I know there's all sorts of things that can be done to fix that really quickly.
Okay, so outside of food, what else?
The increases testosterone, I can't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up, but it's not my area. But I think partly too, I mean, we're talking about masculinity, and I don't know if you just leave it at masculinity. I think it's more to do with a confidence thing. To be the person that you feel that you should be. So I don't think it's gender biased in any way. It's male and female. To be the person that you want to be. Who do you choose to be? It's the one thing that you have control over is your own thoughts. That's the one thing nothing else you really have control over. Anything could happen externally outside of your control. You could be going across a bridge and it collapses. You can't control that. That's a tragic thing to happen. There's a lot of things you can't control, but you can control your own thoughts. And that would be where it'd be starting going, who do I want to be? Who do I choose to be? I use the word choose in a lot of the work I've done, and I've sent it across to you, Roman, for you to share with your listeners, is my goal setting workbook. It's very simple. But I think from that masculinity side of things, if you want to isolate it to that area, again, choose to be the person you want to be. Don't try and be someone else to impress other people and things like that. Be who you are. And that, by its nature, people will want who are like you and like what you're doing will like that. But it doesn't matter whether people like you or not. I don't do things from the perspective of will people like me. It's really none of my business what someone thinks about me, whether they like me or not. I do things because it's right for me. And I have a core set of values. I don't know if I mentioned it last time we talked, but from my perspective, I have my own personal mission statement, which is to enjoy life and share in the joy of others, to learn something daily that helps me overachieve, and to confidently and compassionately act from my values of honesty, excellence, and understanding. That's my core value. That's what I operate from every day. And if someone came to me and said, I don't think that's a good set of values or a good mission statement, or you could make that mission statement better, I would tell them to F off. Well, I wouldn't say that to them. I'd just say, I'd be like, okay, that's your opinion. It's my life and this is mine. And if you want to make a fuss about it, we'll not talk anymore.
Okay, I got it. Now, guys, just to quickly give you a few tips about testosterone, since we're speaking about it. First, sleep. Get good sleep. Reduce stress. Do compound exercises at the gym. Eat red meat. Get magnesium right here. Magnesium and zinc. These are the basics. But also, if you really feel low libido...
It's not hard to do. It's not hard to do.
Make sure that you see the doctor, because you might have a problem that cannot be fixed by just taking magnesium, even though magnesium is important.
I mean, it all depends on your personality. I have a friend of mine, close friend. We don't talk often, about it. But the couple of times we've talked about it, his libido is very different from mine, and he's okay with that. He doesn't, he's not worried about it. I mean, he's got 4 kids, so it works. But he's not, because we talk about, we have completely different things. And this is, being comfortable with who you are and what's right for you. Stop comparing yourself to other people.
I want to go into this. Okay, look, imagine me right now. I'm 15. I'm a loner. I cannot talk to people. I prefer to sit alone in my room with my phone and something else in my other hand. I don't have any hobbies. I did not develop any practical skills by now. I hate school. I hate my life. Okay, how, if I am just myself, I don't think people will like me at all. And there is this paradox. If I should love myself like this, then it means that I'm fine. I don't need to grow myself in any way. I don't need to do personal development. How do you balance that?
Well, what you've said there, there's two things. You said you prefer to sit in your room, so that's a choice. That's what you prefer to do. And I've forgotten the other part you mentioned about something to do with, I can't remember. Yeah, the other point to sort out, but I can look at the recording and come back to that. But from that side of things, it's really important that the part that you need to separate there is you need to separate yourself from your behaviors. And this is where this self-loathing, because you're going in a cycle. You're going, oh, I'm sitting here, jerking myself silly, and I don't like myself, and all, and yeah, don't like the behavior. Great. If you don't like a behavior, then you can change that. If you don't like yourself, that's a really difficult thing to get out. You should always like yourself regardless, because inside you are this amazing person. I've done some pretty shitty things in my life, and I notice the difference. It's not I'm a pretty shitty person. I did some things that were pretty shitty. An example was many years ago, I was at a friend's wedding, and I was out helping organize it. And my thing was to make sure everything was going smoothly. And there was a place out the front.
You ran away with a bride, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
really?
No, there was a place, for the bridal car to park when it pulled up right in front of the church so she could get in and walk in. Well, someone come and park there. And it's like, I was like, the bride needs to park there. So I stormed over and said, what the hell are you parking there for? To the guy, and got out with it was coming to the wedding. He didn't know that was where it was, just an empty park. And so that behavior, my intention was good. I was trying to look after the bride, but that behavior wasn't great. So I don't look at that and go, oh, I'm a bad person because I did that. I'm a good person. I need to work a little bit on my behaviors. And so from that perspective, if you can't, to get along with people, it's pretty easy. A friend of mine, and you can on my podcast, you can listen to another friend talk about it. Terry Tucker, listen to that interview. He talks about he goes to corporate events with his wife. He doesn't work anymore. And his wife is quite high up in corporate business, and so he goes to a lot of function. And he says to his wife, he says, when you go to work on Monday, there's going to be 5 people that tell you what a wonderful guy I am. He said, they will know absolutely nothing about me, but they'll think I'm this wonderful guy. And he says, all I do is I go to there and I ask them questions about themselves. I get them to talk about themselves. And so they never ask one single thing about him. And it's, if you want to, people say, I have difficulty talking to people. Stop trying to think about things to say. You've got 2 ears, 1 mouth. Use them in that proportion. Listen. So for someone that's a teenager and going, well, I don't know what to say, ask questions. Be interested in other. If you're interested in other people, you'll be the most interesting person to that person. It's again, life is pretty simple. So separate, but from that person, really, I think truly separate who you are as a person. You are a good person. And you need to see that. You need to recognize and allow that out, that you are a good person. Maybe this behavior needs to change, and it will change. You're capable of doing that, but you need to like yourself. You have to separate those two.
Yeah, and guys, I would also say this. You might think that being addicted to porn is okay because it's normalized. Our social media are super sexualized, and it's like everyone is supposed to do that because that's how you live your life now. No, look, and so this is going back to what Damian said originally about being yourself. If you are addicted to porn, it's still, okay, admit that, recognize that you do have a porn addiction, but at the same time, start working to a better future. Create a compelling future and work toward it. Find that hero component in you and then move to it. And remember, this is a paradox of life because you'll hear everywhere that you need to love yourself. Yes, you do, but at the same time, it doesn't preclude you from developing yourself. And that's your job on this earth, to keep developing yourself.
Oh, nature determines that you're either growing or you're dying. That's the way nature works. And if you believe in a divine creator, same sort of thing. It's whichever way you think. You need to be growing, you need to be developing, and certainly from that perspective.
Yes.
Next question.
Next question is this. You were super lucky not to get addicted to porn. Did you have any other addictions?
That's a difficult. I mean, it depends on how you define addiction. I mean, there was a time in my life where I was drinking 2 bottles of vodka a day.
Really?
But it was just, and some sambuca on top of that. But it was just so. I mean, and was I addicted? I mean, I look at that period, and it was a choice.
Okay.
I could, and I stopped whenever I wanted to stop. So it wasn't something that I really don't believe, from my perspective anyway, that I've ever been not in control. Because again, I've always been of the belief they're my thoughts. That's the one thing you do control, and your thoughts control your action. So it was always my choice. I've smoked as well. Was I addicted
for how
to
long
smoking?
did you drink?
I think it was about 8 months, maybe. I don't know. Can't remember.
Okay, and you always told yourself that you can stop at any moment. You're in control.
Well, I didn't think about it at the time. It was just what I was doing. And then when I didn't want to do that anymore, I said, I'm not doing it. I'm doing something else.
Okay, and why
I
did
went
you
from
do
a
it?
period where I mean, I drank a lot. Then I went to another period where I didn't drink, I didn't smoke. I was vegetarian. I exercised twice a day. So I went to the other extreme. And was I addicted to exercise? Maybe. I mean, because I was constantly doing it. Couldn't not do it. So maybe that was an addiction. I don't know. Smoking. I mean, my mum smoked. My dad never smoked, that I'm aware of. I think he did before I was born, but anyway, not for very long. But my mum smoked, but that wasn't a reason I started smoking. I'd never smoked until in school there was a girl I liked, and she smoked. So I thought I'd start, smoke to connect with her. And stupid reason to start smoking, but anyway, I did that. We hooked up for a while and had a bit of a relationship. Another one where I fluffed up, and she's there. We're at her house, and she decides she's in the middle of heavy petting. She says, "Oh, I'm going to go and have a shower," and I'm like, "Okay." So I'm sitting there on the couch. I think I was waiting for 45 minutes. She was waiting in the shower for me to turn up in the shower, and I didn't go. But anyway, it's. From the smoking side of things, I've smoked on and off through my life, and it was, I could always stop when I didn't want to. But I thought about it, and this is how your mind works. You're attracted to what you think about. Your unconscious doesn't know how to not do something. So if I tell you not to think of a pink elephant, you've heard of this before, you have to think of it to know what it is, to know what to not think about. And whenever I wanted to stop smoking, it was, I'm going to breathe clean air. I said that to myself, breathing clean air from now. And I just immediately stopped smoking.
Immediately?
Wow.
Okay, but why did you start drinking and smoking in the first place, even though you knew that this was not good for you?
I wouldn't say that I knew it was not good for me. That wasn't a thought that I was thinking about at that time. Drinking, it was just the thing that's, I don't know, it was probably the norm, if that's the right word. I don't like the word norm. It sounds stupid to me. But it was, we went out, we partied, drank. It seemed like a good thing to do. You felt good at the time, had a massive hangover the next day. If you drank a bit of water before you went to bed, it wasn't so bad. It was kind of just not really thinking about life so much, just going with the flow. So now, and that's why, I mean, I haven't smoked for a while. I don't drink anymore either, because it doesn't provide me with any happiness anymore. And the same as, masturbating. It's like, I compare that to a full sexual experience, and with someone else. And it's not even in the same ballpark. It doesn't, the sensations, the physical sensations in the body, it's not even close. It's you sitting there and your whole body's out of control for like 15 minutes when you orgasm. It's like that doesn't, you don't get that when you do it yourself. It's like, yeah, done, cool, felt good, bit of a release. But to sit there and be like literally out of control, you're just and it's hard to describe. So it's like, well, how could I be addicted to that? The same with smoking. It's I like being healthy. I like the energy that I have. I didn't really think about it at that time, how it was affecting me, and probably because, and this is why I've sent you the goals workbook. Is I didn't really have that many things that I wanted to do either. I was just having fun and not really thinking about what I wanted to accomplish. But now I've got all these things I want to do. I've got all these different areas where I'm helping people, and helping people is, giving is such a much bigger high. Working with people and having them help. So it's like, I want the energy to do that. That's why I don't want to drink, because then drinking simply, it makes me tired. And not only that, it ages you. I'm 50 and look at me. I look pretty good. It's so, and I've got lots of friends who and people I know that are in different in a different kettle of fish, because they're drinking all the time still, and they've aged. There's just so many. If you actually, and that's what I say, it's don't slam your fingers in car doors. It's be honest with yourself and look at it and go, well, is this really good for you? It's the same with looking at porn. It's like, well, at the end of the day, you're training if from a guy's perspective, it's the same for girls as well. If you're masturbating all the time, you're training your body to respond differently. We did that when I was in the army. You trained to respond. So you train action response. Certainly your grip on your dick is going to be much different to what the sensation is with a vagina. So you're going to train yourself away from being able to enjoy that sensation, and it'll take a long time to come back. I know there is research on that, where it's you train yourself to be different. You can't perform with a woman, and they're going, well, this is not working, and you can train yourself back, but you got to put the effort in. So, but do you really want to do that? Some people don't, so they just stay with porn, and well, that's the life you live. You're missing out.
Yeah. So the next question is this then. How did you transform from someone who is kind of just going with what's life throwing at him, doing all those parties, to a person who is motivated to accomplish a lot and help other people and get rid of those bad habits like smoking and drinking?
I wanted more, but I think most people want more, but I was honest with myself about it, going, well, that's what I talk about. A lot of people will put out there, and that's where the share.care foundation that I have, the first value is personal responsibility. So I didn't blame the world for me not having the things that I wanted. It wasn't, I'm being held back, or I can't do it. And it was like, no, what can I do that's differently? Well, stop, if I want more money, stop blowing it on alcohol and smoking. And I was never a gambler. And I could do the maths, and and I know now too, as I understand psychology, that if you're gambling on a regular basis, you'll never be wealthy, because you don't have the right mindset. It's the opposite of what you need to do. You're looking at things the wrong way to have wealth. It's just it's a mental mindset, and so from that perspective, it was being honest with myself, going, okay, the problem is me, and I need to change me. And it became really easy from then. As soon as I recognized me, whenever something is not going the way I want it to go, I don't go, well, why is that, and complain about it. It's like, what can I do differently? How can I adjust? How can I do this? And it gets there quicker. And that was my transition, is really accepting my own personal responsibility for my life.
Okay. Now, let's say so it's not a good idea to be wasting your time and money, let's say, on gambling or on vodka or smoking.
It depends on what your objective is. I mean, it's one thing and that's where I'm really careful about, it's not for me to say how someone should lead their life. Everyone has a right. That's the whole point of, we have our own right to lead some people like gambling and drinking, and that's what they want to do. And and that's I've people that I know that enjoy doing that, and they're not expecting anything more with their life. That's okay if that's how you want to lead your life. If you want something different, if you want to, if you want to build some wealth up and you want to have a healthy body, then drinking and gambling is not going to be, it's going to make it a lot more difficult to get there. And I think I'm just generally lazy. So I like finding the easiest way to get there. And it's like, well, that's going to hurt me, so I don't do it. I've lost your sound.
Aren't you afraid that you are actually giving people an excuse?
Well, again, it's not for me to tell people how to lead their life. That's something.
But
we
you
have to
are.
choose.
I feel that that's what you're doing by saying that. I mean, if it's your choice, do it. Maybe,
How do you mean?
when you do.
Yeah, okay. So you're getting very esoterical there, and going from the high level. Um, I think that's the one thing we have. Free will is the whole point. I mean, and that's where. I mean, if you look at society as a whole, and different societies in different way things are structured, and certainly, I mean, you're in Canada, I'm in Australia. We live in democracies, and fundamentally behind that, people fought for that right to choose. Now, and if your right to choose is to sit and watch Netflix all day, and that's what you want to do, then that's your choice. That's okay, but don't complain about not having and missing out. And that's why when you look at people that do have, lots of, quote unquote success, but I wouldn't, I mean, people look at the external factors and go, oh, they've got a lot of money, they should be successful. Well, yeah, but they probably do. Probably are in other ways, but that doesn't mean, for example, I look at my mum. My mum was a stay-at-home mum by choice. Well, going back to it, in the early days, when she was a teenager, she was in Australia after World War II. There was a lot of women in industry during World War II, but after that, went back to the home. My mum, after World War II, was the first apprentice female motor mechanic. Now, she had to move to a different state to do that, but she wanted to do that. That was her choice. Then when she had children, that was her choice. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mum. She wanted to be there. That was something that she wanted to do. So, if you look at, did she have this amazing career and make all this money? No, but was she highly successful? I think she was. Similar sort of thing. She took that to the extreme when my mum and dad split up. She deliberately and consciously chose that she wasn't going to go out with anybody until children were older. So for 10 years, she didn't date anyone because she didn't want us as children having a bunch of uncles, or potentially having a bunch of uncles. She wanted to set that. So was she successful in relationships? She would say, well, no, because she didn't have one. But that was her choice. So she was highly successful in what she chose was right for her. And so from that perspective, yeah, there's certain principles that are going to ensure that you can lead a happier and fulfilled life, and having a purpose. Whatever that purpose is, my mum's was looking after her children. That was her purpose, and I think she did a fantastic job. And so that gives you a reason to live, and yes, sitting around doing nothing is not greatly fulfilling. But if that's what you want to do, well, then that's your choice. It's not for me to tell you to do something different. I think if you get out there and do something and help other people, your life is much more fulfilling. I know from my perspective, I help tremendous amount of people, and I consciously choose to do that, and I put a lot of effort into doing that because it's great. It feels great, and I get so much satisfaction out of helping people. I love that. And that's what I choose to do. Other people give a little bit, and that's what I'm not saying people should do what I do. Doing what works for you is what you should do. But you need to know who you are first.
Okay. So let's agree to disagree on this point, because I think
I'm sure what we're disagreeing on, but
we're disagreeing on the fact that it's a person's choice to actually, let's say, have a bad habit. And if that person, what you're saying is that if that person has a bad habit, it's his or her choice. And we should not intervene in any way. I think we actually should, because when people reach out to me and they ask me, is my watching pornography a problem? I always tell them that it probably
It's a
is.
different thing. I'm not disagreeing on that. I'm agreeing with you completely on that. If someone reaches out to you and says, "Hey, what is the effect of this?" And you say, "Well, this is the effect." Yeah, sitting there watching porn is certainly not helping you develop your ability to go out and relate to people. It's not giving you the right perspective on how a relationship works. It's not giving you the right perspective on how porn works. Definitely agreeing on that perspective. It's if someone takes that on board and says, "Yeah, I'm going to do it anyway," well, it's not my job to go and drag them out. But yeah, certainly I agree with you from the perspective of, if someone comes to you and asks you from that side of things, what are the effects of this? It's like, well, yeah, it's hugely detrimental to be sitting in a room, jerking off, watching porn. It doesn't create a fulfilling life, for sure. It doesn't give you, you might get a short-term release, you might ejaculate, get your tissues out. That's pretty gross when you think about it. It's better, to do that with somebody else and massage it into each other. That's much more fun than getting a tissue and having the tissue break apart and you're trying to that's not fun. And it's yeah, so from that perspective, definitely agreeing with you. It's if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, what's the effect of this?" and you're saying it's certainly much more, as which is highlighted, going out and helping other people, connecting with people, interacting with people, hugely fulfilling.
Yes. You mentioned that your sexual experiences are amazing a few times. All right. I want
If you
to.
do it properly, they are all, they are amazing. It's why it's designed that way.
Okay,
Whether
so
it's creator or nature, it's designed that way so the species continues. It's biological.
okay, no, wait. A lot of people have sex and they don't like it, especially when they are married or whatever. How did you go from your very first sex, where you didn't know, you didn't have any idea, to now where your sex is amazing?
It's well, yeah, I think it's experience. And I don't think it was ever bad. From that perspective, because it didn't have a comparison. But if I was to compare it now, so back at then, I didn't know any different. It was good, it was great actually at the time when I think about it. But compared to now, not even close. But it depends on how you're doing that, right? I mean, I just while I was dating a woman who she was married for 20 years and never had an orgasm, and she said, we did the weekly thing, got it over with, and moved on. Of course, she's going to do that. If she's not enjoying it, never had an orgasm, why would she be wanting to do it? But it's like anything. It's a skill that you learn, and that's part of the whole point of being in a real relationship is to when I look back at my first marriage, we were married for 12 years. And I don't agree with the statement that sex gets stale as the longer you're together. That, to me, that's not my experience. That sex was the thing that kept us together. But not only that, it was the sex got better, the orgasms got bigger as we,
Why?
well, it's part of. I think it works because of the connection that you have. Because sex is not, it's not just when you're doing it yourself, it's just a physical thing. You're not connecting with anybody. You're not opening yourself up to anybody. You're just by yourself. It can't get any, I mean, you can personally grow a little bit, but when you're with someone else and you're having that shared experience, and as you get to know each other more, I mean, yeah, first when you first get to know each other, there's a whole bunch of things to do, but then there's other things you learn. Oh, okay, this stimulates you this way, and your partner gets more excited, and then they learn what works for you, and you get more excited, and then it transcends to something completely different. But you're never going to get to that unless you go through that process. It's not, it's the same, when you look at your schooling, whatever subject that you might have been good at, or even if you're not good at it, when you first started, you didn't know it at all. When you go back and we forget the process that we went through to learning something, sex is the same. And part of what makes it really special is the emotional connection. And that doesn't, you don't, I've had one night stands and had sex one night stands and it's been great. It's been really good. But it hasn't compared to the sex in a relationship that's grown over time because you're getting closer and closer to each other. Now, if you're not getting closer and closer to each other emotionally, then of course the sex is probably going to not follow suit as well, and that's where people are going to struggle. And it's also too, I think, from a guy perspective, understanding. I mean, people say, "Oh, what are women?" I don't understand. Women are not that complicated. It really not that complicated. Women like sex. They like sex a lot. If they're having good sex. I had a friend when I was in corporate, and we were talking about that, and she was saying, sex is not that great. And I said to her, I said, you just probably haven't had good sex. And she was like, oh yeah, maybe.
I have some right here.
Yeah, and no, well, she was a friend, so it wasn't hitting on her or anything like that.
Just kidding.
And so, but then she met this guy. And they started a relationship, and she came up to me probably 6 months into that relationship, and she goes, "You were right. Sex is really, really good." And they're married now and got a few kids, and as far as I can tell, really still happy together. So it's from a guy perspective, women are triggered differently. It's not, you don't go up and grab her breasts. You can, in a relationship.
No. I mean, it feels great. Feels great.
They
though.
do, and that's where. But in a relationship, you can do that, but you need to do the things first, and show the nice, be nice, be understanding, be thoughtful. Every now and then, when you're going past, just kiss her on the neck and walk away. That kind of thing. It's you go. I mean, it's a seduction for women. Foreplay is a 24-hour thing. It's you might be in the office or wherever you are at work, and you think of her. Send her a message. Say, "Hey, babe, thinking of you. You're gorgeous. Love you." That will turn her on. Because not only that, every time she, when I say turn her on, it's not like she's sitting there, getting wet, which she gets a message, but she's getting that emotional connection, and so and it's not that hard for guys as well. One of the things you can do, which works in our favor, it's designed so we can be lazy. It's great, because and I've made this mistake. Never surprise a woman. It's you'll plan this thing and to surprise her. She'll turn up. Just say you have this surprise party. She turns up and you go, "Hey, surprise!" and all these people there. She hasn't got her makeup right. She hasn't got the right clothes on. You've lost. What you do is you tell her. You go, "Okay, babe, I plan this. Plan this date 2 weeks in advance. Got this wonderful thing. I know you love this type of food. You love seafood. I've got this restaurant booked out because I know that's lovely. It's got a beautiful view, and I want us to have that time together." So you plan it, 2 weeks out, and tell her. Well, immediately as soon as you told her, you're getting a point or points because you've thought about it. And you're caring and you're caring and considerate. So you're getting a point for that. Then every time she thinks about it from that point in time, you're getting points. She's going, "Oh, he's going to plan it. You're going to go out together and do this together." You're getting points. You're not doing anything from that point. Then she's telling her friends. And she's telling her friends, going, "Oh, Roman's planned this wonderful date for us, and we're going to go out." And every time she tells her friends, you're getting points. So she's getting excited. But on the plus side, also too, the friend that she's telling, the schmo on the other side, the boyfriend's getting in trouble because he hasn't planned. So you're getting this twofer thing. So it's like because he's getting in trouble because he hasn't planned a date. So you get that, the Schadenfreude, or you're getting satisfaction because someone else is getting in trouble. And then you get to the date and you go out on the date and you're creating that, but it's not, again, these things aren't hard to create that, but then she's feeling attracted to you, because of that, and sex becomes easy. You have, and as long as she enjoys sex, like she's getting a pleasurable experience, she'll want to do that because she's feeling loved and appreciated. It's not hard.
It's not hard, and actually, it is super inspiring what you're saying, because porn sex pales in comparison with real sex. What are some other
Just
ways?
think of this whole relationship where you do that one thing. Right? You plan a date, a special date, which you can do depending on your circumstances and things like that. But for most people, you're planning something really special. It's not something you can do every day for most people. So if it's reasonable to plan that out in advance. So you both got time and things like that. So you've got that time to think about it. You've got that time to appreciate, hey, we're going to have this special time together. Think of the emotional connection that creates for both of you, for the guy as well. We have emotions. Guys have emotion. We express it differently, but we do have them. And think of that over that 2 weeks where you're talking about and going, hey, and you every now and then say, look, I'm really looking forward to going out with you on that time. How appreciative is she going to be? So you've got through, that's the whole point. Women, we come back to that point. Women need to have love, need love to have sex. So you show her that you love her, that you care about her. All of a sudden, she's going to be wanting to have sex with you. Now, she's motivated different. Women don't come on strong all the time. They in a relationship, they do. I mean, I've been in relationships where we'll come over and have a hug, and she'll reach down and grab my yang, because she knows I like that. But a stranger, someone on one night stand, is generally not going to do that. But when you know what each other works for each other, she feels loved and appreciated. She knows that I'm not interested in you massaging my shoulders. That doesn't work for me. Just go for my yang. That's what works for me. In a relationship, that works. She knows that, and she'll do that.
Okay, with that said, here comes the main question of our podcast today. So how do you get one night stands? No, I'm kidding.
How do you get one night stands?
I'm kidding. Don't answer that. We're going to get banned 100% if we answer that. No.
I would put myself in the master of that category, because I've done. There was one when I was younger, and I did this as an experiment, and I've got 100% success rate because I only did it once, and I was never going to do it again because I didn't want to lose it. I think I was a pretty charming guy and reasonably good looking, and I was at the Cottesloe pub, and there's this really lovely girl at the bar, and I thought, I'm going to find out, and so I just went over and had a bit of a chat. She was chatting with me, and I think it was about 10 minutes into the chat, I said, hey, and I did this. That was a conscious choice before I went over. I said, I'm going to do this as an experiment to see if I can get away with it. And so I said, do you want to, would you like to go out and, we can go somewhere together and get it on? And she looked at me, she goes, yeah. So that was like my pickup. I was just like, do you want to go and have sex, basically? The girl that I knew 10 minutes, and we went out and had that experience. I only did that once. I've only ever asked a girl to have, in a relationship, never asked to have sex. Never asked. Guys, don't ask to have sex. Romance her and then make your move. Asking to have sex is likely to get a no. Don't go there.
That's right.
Romance
of course.
her. Sorry, we got off the topic there. You asked the question, I answered.
I did. Yeah. I teased it out of you. Look, you are a charming guy, a confident guy, and you've been like that for many, many years. And now, look at me. Imagine me a teenager, or let's say I'm in my early 20s, and I'm a loner. I don't like to talk to people. I don't have the confidence. I don't have charisma. And I never had sex. How do I go from this to having a girlfriend?
Yeah, that's a good question. But I think from the perspective of, firstly, go back to what I said before, you have to separate you from your behaviors. As a teenager, I look at all the things that I fluffed up trying to date women. It was just, I messed it up. There's so many times I could have had sex and didn't because I fluffed it up. So it's really important to separate you as a person. And I certainly, when I was younger, I didn't like myself. as a person.
Wow.
That was so. Yeah, I wasn't always like that. That was a choice that I made. There was a learning experience when someone said to me, "You separate behaviors from you are a good person, your behaviors are different." And so that clicked with me, and I made that. It didn't go immediately. I immediately like myself, but it does happen a lot quicker. And I've done this with my son when he's 14 now. But from a very early age, I was always asking him, "Do you like yourself? You need to like yourself." And I remember I have these little snippets from movies and TV shows and other things that stand out for me. And one of them is from the movie Enchanted. The Disney movie, and they're in the apartment. Oh, not the apartment. They're in a hotel, the dodgy hotel, and the aide's watching Oprah or one of those shows, and they're talking about liking yourself. And the aide gets up and is about to leave the room. Then he turns to Prince Charming and says, "Sire, do you like yourself?" And Prince Charming thinks and goes, "What's not to like?" And it was, to me, that's the perfect example of how you need to approach yourself. You need to like yourself. You need to have that attitude of what's not to like. As a person, I might do some things that, I might need experience. I might, as a teenager, you might be going, "Oh, okay, I need to," but you need to, I look at my son, he's 14. He's in his own space. He's happy doing his own thing. He's not trying to impress, and the teachers comment on that all the time, how he's so well together, but it's from that, he's had me as a parent where I've been telling him, like yourself. I like you, but it doesn't matter what I think. Do you like yourself? And that's a really important distinction to have. So I think for any teenagers or things like that, certainly just distinguish between your behavior and your person. You're a good person. You need to recognize you're a good person. You might do things that fluff up. Well, that's fine. Learn from it, move forward. And that coming to that might do things that fluff up. In certainly interacting with people. Now, unless you've had a lot of interaction, and I guess I was kind of lucky from that side of things. I had a mum that was kind of open with talking about, different things. One of the things I think maybe impacted a lot was because I had a sister who was a year younger. So I understood interaction with girls because I had a sister that I interacted with. But the other thing that stood out really well, which I think has served me, I don't think I really understood it probably until now when I'm talking about it, is that my mum always said, she said, "You're a man, you're a boy. You're physically stronger than your sister. Be careful when you're playing with her because your normal play could hurt her." And I think from that perspective, I've always had that attitude of being really careful with women in the sense of being careful not to hurt them. And as I'm talking about this, I'm going, well, that probably, has impacted how they felt around me because I've always been that little bit cautious, little bit caring. Underlying has been there, but want to take it a step further. So that's an experience, and I'll talk about a friend of mine in the army who was always dating these really gorgeous women. When I say gorgeous, not just physically gorgeous, but they were, doctors and lawyers, really intelligent women, really kind women. And looking at, and he was a good-looking guy, but I thought he was a bit dumb. And so my friends and I looking at how is he dating all these like amazing women, and one day I decided to ask him. So I went up to him and said, "Shane," and I said, "Shane, how is it? You're pretty dumb." And I said that to him. I said, "How is it that you're dating all these gorgeous women?" And he turned into this wise Obi-Wan type character, put his arm around my shoulder and says, "Damian, what you don't see is I ask a lot. Most of them say no. You just see the ones that say yes." And that was a life-altering moment for me. It's like, if you want something, you're going to get a lot of no's. Don't be discouraged by that. So when you go out and meet people for the first time, if you haven't had that ability, you're going to, you're going to find some knockbacks. You're going to get some things where things don't kind of work out, and that's okay. And this is said, so long as you come back to that foundation of you like yourself behaviors, and sometimes you're not going to get along with people. You don't have to get along with everyone. It's about finding what is right for you and getting along with those people. And the last point I want to touch on with that is confidence. People talk about how you get confidence, and I have a program that actually teaches confidence, but it's the thing that you need to understand with that is it's not something you have. You can't go to a supermarket and buy confidence. Confidence is not something that comes from experience as well. It doesn't. Confidence is actually a choice. I'm going to act confident. I've gone into places where I've had no experience whatsoever, and I've had both experiences where I've had no experience, and I've gone in and thought about, I'm not going to do well. I don't know what I'm doing, and performed accordingly. And other times where I've gone into a situation where I've done this. A courtroom's a good example, and I've had a bit of experience in that. And when through COVID, when I had to present things in court, I got really confident at it, like talking like this. It was like really, really great. And so I walked into after COVID and walked into a courtroom to do a thing, and I messed it up. I was like, oh my God, I was so bad at it. And I thought I was, because courtrooms are an intimidating place. But I went away from that, and I took that away and said, hang on a minute. I allowed in that moment, I felt confident before I went in, but in that moment, I took all these things on, and I made myself get intimidated by that. I allowed myself to get intimidated by the experience. And I took that away and said, okay, next time I'm going in, I'm just going to take my time, say the things I need to say, and basically take my time. I'm going to own my space. It's my space that I'm in. I might be in this courtroom that's really intimidating, but here, this is my space. And this is the fundamental part of what I teach in the confidence program I have. This space here is your space. Your thoughts, you choose how to act. And that was how I did it. Next time I walked in, it was a completely different person, but this was my space. I was taking my time. I was thinking about what I needed to do and owning me. And that choice, that conscious choice to go, I will be confident in this moment. And that's what confidence is. It's not about what level of experience you have. I have a lot of experience speaking publicly. Yet I walked into the courtroom and fluffed it up because I wasn't feeling confident. The next time, I didn't have any more training, any more experience. I just chose to behave differently. And that's where confidence comes from. So that would be my thing of, one, like yourself, separate person from behaviors. Two, be okay with fluffing up. You got to go out there, especially as a teenager. You don't have the experience you think you have. I look at myself, I'm 50 now. They have so much more experience and things that I know how to deal with because of my life experience. At 15, you don't. Go out, fall over, fall on your face, know that you're an okay person, get up and do it again. And you'll do it many times. I've lost count of how many times I've fallen on my face. And two, separate confidence. Confidence is not an experience thing. Confidence is, this is my personal space. I choose to behave how I choose to behave in my personal space.
Yeah, perfect. And let me add, let's say, 3 tips for confidence on top of that. Number 1, I would say taking massive action. This shuts down the thinking mind, helps with confidence. Then, when you just do the thing, just like you said, you build your competence. And I think confidence is competence. And the third thing is building on what you said about fluffing up. It's self-deprecating humor. Don't take yourself too seriously. And speaking of that, I want you to play a game really quickly, and it's going to be fun. Okay, so
just before you get to playing the game, you're talking about this laughing at yourself, that kind of thing, and share.care, my foundation, we have the code, and that gives you a guide. It's drawing from the Knight's Code from medieval times, and one of those is to laugh at yourself and not take offense at the opinions of others. That's one of the codes. It's just self-deprecating. So what if someone says you're a twat? So what if people laugh at you? Get up and own it. I've done that many times where I've fallen over, literally fallen over. It's like, yeah, hey, you get up and people cheer along with you. Own it. It's like, don't be embarrassed by that. Own the situation.
Exactly.
Sorry,
Exactly.
I'm distracting from you. I'm answering my own questions.
All right. So the game. I'm going
The
to
game,
ask you.
sorry.
I'm going to ask you a question, and
Yep.
you.
Is Jeopardy? What is a?
Yeah, it's Roman's Jeopardy. You are in jeopardy. Okay. Anyway,
cool.
so you are supposed to give a quick answer and as funny as possible. So we're just
Oh God, no pressure.
and then you'll do the same thing to me. And look, this is a completely random question. So here we go. Here we go. Why is a guy sitting in front of an ATM on a chair?
Because he's waiting for the cricket to start.
All right. Okay. Okay, my answer is he's trying to remember his PIN.
Okay. You said to be funny. That's obvious.
That's the best I have. Now you just crushed me. But I'm going to have self-deprecating
It's
humor.
like, why did the koala fall out of the tree?
That's right. Or why does the
'Cause it
bear
was
shit in
dead.
the woods?
Why did the second koala fall out of the tree? Because it was stapled to the first one. Why did the third koala fall out of the tree? Because he thought it was a trend.
A trend. Okay. All right. Now your
You
question.
started it. You started it.
And I'm taking it full on. I'm taking it.
Yeah.
All right. Your
What do you call
your
it?
question.
What do you call a guy with a shovel in his head?
With the
Doug. What do you call a guy without a shovel in his head? Douglas.
Okay.
We have on a radio show that do it's called Comedy Clangers. It's bad jokes.
Yeah. That's the definition of my life.
Yeah. And own it. This is the thing. This is what I'm trying to. I mean, while we're going here too, like for your audience members, I mean, how stupid was that joke? And I've told that publicly to pretty everyone that's listening, and look like a complete twat. So what? Own it. That's what being your own person is. Have fun.
Yeah. All right.
Doesn't matter what
Give
anyone
me your
else-
question.
Well, I don't know what's my. Oh,
That's the point. It doesn't have to make sense.
Why did trees grow green leaves? Now I've got to think of an answer. Shit.
Yeah, because green was their second choice, and the supermarket was out of stock for the blue one, which was the first one.
I love that answer. I'm going to go with that because I hadn't thought of it. I was just looking at some trees outside and went, okay.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
that's
your
a
turn.
good
Come on.
question.
Give your answer.
I'm going to go with what you said.
No.
I think that's a
No.
good
Your answer. That's how we play.
Okay.
Yes.
What are trees? Well, I think they're because trees are there to please me and green's my favorite color. So.
Okay. Why did the guy come to work in a suit out of the blue?
Why did the guy come to the suit in a blue? It was laundry day and all these NASCAR shirts were in the wash.
Yeah. Amazing.
Why did this guy stand at?
No. That's my turn. Now I'm answering my own question.
Sorry, you got to answer your own question.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Okay.
We need the rules written out here. I'm losing track.
Because he just for some reason swapped clothes with another guy in the elevator, who was going to.
They got changed in the elevator.
Yeah, got changed because the other guy was going to a conference to do a public speech.
Okay.
Okay, now your question.
My question.
Yes.
Why was the person standing at the traffic light not moving when it was green?
because he thought that he actually thought that this guy that he was seen in the traffic light, that small guy walking, he thought that guy was approaching him, so he was scared and just decided to stand still.
Very abstract. I love that. I was thinking of the round lights because I'd pre-thought the answer was going they were colorblind and they couldn't tell whether it was green or red. But I like your answer better.
You don't have walking guys in Australia on the traffic light?
Sometimes we have the walking figures as well, but I was just assuming that it was just a traffic light. That was what I'd pitched in my head, so a round one. But that suited my answer, so that I'd pre-thought.
Okay. So let's do one more round.
All right.
Why was a guy walking down the street with a USB cord sticking out of his pocket?
Why was a guy walking down the street with a USB cord sticking out of his pocket? Well, he was wanting to connect with the world, and he had, and just to make sure that he could, do that really quickly, he had the cord very handy, so it could be a quick draw. It could be like wide open, go, yeah, boom, 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 and connect in. So he could connect with the world.
Yes. I would say just that was his idea of connecting to the world in 2023.
Cool.
All right. Thank you so much.
Love it. That was fun, actually. It's kind of like Toastmasters table topics.
Yes. Yeah, with your son, what you do is you tell him that you like him and he's supposed to like himself. That's perfect. That's one of the things that I do with my son. I play this game because I want him to practice humor and really quick thinking, because that's how you're supposed to play it. Anyway, I used to do
that with my son where we had public speaking. So we would have a thing where we gave each other table topics like you do in Toastmasters, and we'd had to do a 2-minute speech. So go, here's a topic, and a similar sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a great exercise, and I would say that to really challenge yourself, I would do something like 20 minutes and like talking about a matchbox. That really pushes you.
That's good. Yeah. That's a good one. Love it.
Yeah, teaches you free associative speech. Okay, as we wrap up, okay. Let me say it again. As we wrap up here. No. Yep. Okay. As we wrap up here. Yeah, that sounds
here better. On Romans podcast, we're going to wrap it up.
You mentioned that you have a program about confidence. Can you tell us more about it and how people can actually reach out to you and get enrolled into that program?
Yeah, I have a number of programs. I'm actually rebuilding the website at the moment, but there are a number of programs that I've got. Normally, I work with corporates, so that's where that has been. But for that exact reason that you're talking about, I'm rebuilding it so that actually people, individuals can have access to that knowledge as well. If you want to find me, it's pretty simple. You Google Damian Andrews. I'm every link on the front page and possibly the second and third. I haven't looked beyond the first page, but I'm certainly every link on the front page. My website, damianandrews.com. I have all that detail. Certainly, if you want some assistance with that, it's not set up at the moment to have. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but right at this moment, it's not set up for individuals to do that. But you can reach out to me, and I'm certainly anyone that reaches out to me, I always respond. And if you need some help, and I can help, I will certainly do my best to do that. But from that perspective, I have a number of programs. I have a program called Negotiation Magic, which is probably one of the best negotiation courses in the world. But it's not cheap; it's very expensive. It's designed for corporates. But I have a leadership course which teaches you how to be a great leader. A presentation course, which we're talking about in this sense of how to present an idea. I have a program that teaches you how to get a pay rise, how to negotiate a higher salary when you start a job. So they're programs that I had developed for individuals, which said that the link's not on there at the moment, but I have that information available. And so for those perspective, anything that you want to do, confidence is one of those programs as well. And so confidence is a choice when you understand that you can create confidence in the moment. And there's ways of doing that, of how to create that. I have a program on teaching, and this is part of a wider program of what I call exceptional effort, which again teach to corporates, but it's how to create unconscious rapport. It's how to connect with someone. You can, and it's great for dating. I used it all the time, where you just be able to connect with a person without even speaking to them. You can connect with them across the room, and it works. And a great example, people go, "Oh, that's not." Well, when you think about it, look at with women that are around each other all the time, their periods will sync up. How does that happen? We connect with each other in many different ways, and you can do that. There's ways that you can actually connect with a person, and at a very deep level without even speaking. There's ways of doing that. So I have a program on that. So there's lots of information there, and the website will be updated soon with providing individuals with access to all that knowledge.
Okay. Thank you for sharing this. All right. So one last question, and it's really important, very important. Why DamianAndrews.com, not DamianAndrews.au? I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, well, that was an option, but I mean, .com's just more global. Yeah.
Yes,
and I consider myself global, so that was.
Yes.
I know you're probably looking for a funny answer on that one, but it was simple as that.
I can't get out of the game. I'm still in the game, right? Okay, so now finally, one last thing. Let's say I'm addicted to porn. I feel very low, very depressed all the time. It's holding me back. It's stealing my time and potential, and it only makes me lonely. It makes me, my memory is getting worse. I cannot concentrate. Is there a hope for me? Can you say, okay, let's say you have a minute to address me and give me hope and motivation?
What you're asking there is a really complex question, and it's, I know because I work with a number of friends of mine who are actually highly esteemed psychologists, and what you're asking is a very deep question, and it would be remiss of me to go, hey, yeah, in a minute, this is how you solve that problem.
No. I'm asking for hope and motivation, not the solution.
Yeah, well, it's. From that perspective, it's come back to really distinguishing that you really need to believe that you're a good person, and you are a good person. Mm-hmm. This is the thing. And I've dealt with that with not from a porn perspective, but with a number of people. I've had employees that were performing really badly, who were going to get fired. I couldn't work out, and just why I couldn't, all different things. And then finally they've opened up and said they were going through depression. And it's like, okay, cool. I then just spent time with them, and they turned it around within a week. But that was very specific circumstances. So from that side of things, as far as giving hope, you are a really, really good person. And you need to separate. To me, it's always separating the behaviors from the person. Yes, if you do something stupid or do something that's not great, we all do that. We've all done that. If you want to make yourself feel guilty about that, then that's not going to be helpful. Yeah, you messed up. You're a good person, and focus on looking forward and you being a good person and how you'll do things differently in the future. Look forward. Look forward gives you hope. Looking at and going, oh, last week I was jerking off. That's not looking forward. Look forward. And this is where I want to live my life. You are a good person, and look forward. Done shitty stuff in the past. So what? Leave it there. Leave it in the past. That's where it should be. Move forward. Look forward. So there's always hope in the future.
Exactly. So you need to create a compelling future, one where you're porn-free, You don't need jerking off. You're happy. You're smiling. You are.
Well, again, I would come because, and this is where you need to be really careful about how you use your mind, because it's like when I quit smoking, it was never I want to quit smoking. People that say I want to quit smoking have difficulty doing that. Saying I'm going to be porn free, you're focusing on porn. Saying I'm going to have, amazing sex with a partner, that's going to be my life. Making that shift is going to be a lot easier. That's the shift. Whatever you focus on, energy goes to whatever you focus on. And if you're focused on porn, whether it's porn free or porn, it's still the same thing. You're focusing on porn. Focusing on in your mind, not about I'm not going to be watching this, because your mind has to reference you sitting there jerking off to not do it. Well, make that shift in your mind. Just think about it now as you're listening to this. Think about being porn free. Well, you're thinking about porn. I'm thinking about it as I say that. Now I say, okay, I'm going to have great sex with with a girl or boy, whatever you choose. I'm going to have great sex with a partner.
Thank you for being a guest. I appreciate you.
It's a pleasure being here, and thank you very much for having me. It's been wonderful.
There you go. I really enjoyed my interview with Damian. So guys, if you liked what he's talking about, if you like his work, if you like his programs, make sure you go and check out his stuff. There is a link in the description. And you want to be PMO free. You want success. You want an amazing relationship. But PMO is holding you back. It's like shackles on your feet. And you want to remove those shackles forever. Now, there is a way. I created a brand new free Nofap course. It will help you do exactly that. If you are committed to your Nofap transformation, you will go through the course and you will get results. Not a lot of people actually do that because they prefer to entertain themselves and to forget about their depression and just soothe it with this medication of PMO. But you are different. You are a rare person in that 1% of people who will actually take the course, take action, and get results. Go from level 1 to level 5, and then they will use the momentum to continue building their life. So, check it out right now. It is at romanmironov.com/free. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And also, leave a comment or a question, because you know that I will get back to you. I answer every question and I answer every comment. We are building the strong No family. Let's go.